I was born in Munich in 1921, in a family of an engineer and a schoolteacher. From childhood, I was fascinated by airplanes. I would spend hours watching them in the sky, marveling at their speed and grace. When the war began in 1939, I did not fully understand what it would mean. In my dreams, there were heroics and glory, not fear, destruction, and death. I joined the Luftwaffe in 1940, and the first months of training were filled with enthusiasm, pride, and strict discipline. My first baptism by fire happened over France in 1941. I was part of a squadron escorting bombers, and we engaged in small skirmishes with British aircraft. We won those encounters, but they were easy fights. I saw fear in the eyes of young pilots, saw them lose control of their planes and plummet to the ground, and for the first time understood the cost of war. When 1942 brought us to the Eastern Front, the reality of war became even harsher. I participated in battles near Stalingrad, watched our tanks burn and infantry bleed. The Russian soldiers were incredibly resilient. I remember moments when we surrounded a village and they came out with raised hands, yet a fire still burned in their eyes. It was another level of courage, not giving in to fear even in the face of certain death. But the real trials began in 1943, when American planes began appearing actively over Europe. My first encounter with a P-47 Thunderbolt was shocking. I was flying my Messerschmitt Bf-109, accustomed to maneuverability and speed, thinking I could control the fight. But these American machines were fighters of a new era. Their massive frames, astonishing dive speed, and firepower gave the impression that you were facing not just a machine, but a living weapon. The first encounters with American pilots were humiliating. My squadron lost several comrades trying to attack them with our usual maneuvers, from turns, from behind clouds, from the sun. Nothing worked. The P-47s simply ignored these tricks. I watched my friends fall, while the Americans emerged from battle almost unharmed. Their firepower was catastrophic. 8.50 caliber Brownings, precise and deadly, turning our planes into flying metal shrapnel. By mid-1944, the situation became critical. Russian troops we faced on the Eastern Front acted with incredible coordination and discipline. When we tried to break through the front line, facing American aviation and Soviet infantry, it felt like the world had gone mad. I watched our tanks get stuck in mud, our aircraft lose pilots, while commanders desperately tried to hold defensive lines. It was then that I personally encountered a P-47 pilot who shot me down. I remember my Messerschmitt catching fire, me ejecting from the cockpit, feeling adrenaline and fear at the same time. I saw the American pursuing me with iron determination, but I also saw respect in his eyes as I parachuted away. Captivity was unpleasant, but the lessons of that battle were priceless. The technique and discipline of the Allies were unparalleled, and despite all our skills, we could not compete. Every day on the front revealed new depths of fear and defeat. War spared no one. Even when we had numerical advantage or a tactical plan, American and Russian soldiers found ways to destroy us. The Russians were especially ingenious. Unexpected ambushes, the ability to blend into forests and snow, coordination with artillery and aviation. Their courage seemed endless. I remember one battle near Warsaw in the summer of 1944. We were on patrol when we encountered a group of 20 American P-47s. We were half their number, trying to use regrouping tactics and sudden attacks, but nothing helped. The Americans mirrored our maneuvers, and their firepower left us with little chance. 2 of my comrades were shot down in the first minutes. I barely escaped, and landing in a damaged forest was excruciating. That was when I first truly felt the absolute superiority of American aviation. Realizing the inevitability of defeat, we tried to survive these fights, supporting each other, but morale was shattered. I watched even experienced pilots fight with desperation, losing control over themselves and their planes. The Americans and Russians were like iron machines of discipline. We, despite all our skill, were too weak. In the bitter winters of 1944-1945, on the Eastern Front, fighting still raged. Snow and frost made flights exhausting. We lost planes due to mechanical failures, while Americans and Russians continued their advance. I remember watching battles from the ground, seeing American bombers and fighter escorts destroy positions, leaving us in chaos. Russian infantry and tanks moved together with aviation, creating impenetrable defensive lines. I also witnessed the human side of war. When captured, I saw how Americans treated us with surprising respect. They knew we were the enemy, but acted with precision, discipline, and professionalism. The Russians I encountered on the front showed incredible patience and mutual support. They were not merciless monsters as I expected, but people ready to help each other, even under the most terrible conditions. In April 1945, as Berlin fell, I stood on the roof of a destroyed building, looking at the city. American and Russian soldiers were accomplishing what seemed impossible: clearing streets, coordinating attacks, not losing discipline or spirit. I saw how many of my comrades perished in the streets, how our planes could no longer influence the course of the war. We were defeated not because of lack of skill, but because the Allies had almost endless resources, iron will, and professionalism. I survived only by chance and a little luck. The defeat was absolute and undeniable. I watched my colleagues surrender, attempt to hide, yet realized their efforts were futile. Those we considered weak were stronger. The Americans and Russians not only had the technology, they had the human spirit, moral strength, and organization that we lacked. Every American P-47, every Russian tank column demonstrated how training and morale make both fighter and machine nearly invincible. I will never forget these people, Americans and Russians. Their resilience, courage, and humanity left an indelible mark. They did not just defeat us in battle. They showed that humanity, discipline, and determination can change the course of history. I lost friends, saw destruction, blood, and fear, but I also witnessed the greatness of the human spirit.